What was your reaction to this tragic news?
I was completely shocked, just like everybody else was. I remember when I was on the set of Black Panther. It was when they were filming the Korean casino scenes, and I watched him put in a 10 or 12 hour day that particular day, and I watched him do about 20 takes of the same kind of stunt where he does this roundhouse kick and sends his assailants flying onto a bed of mattresses that, of course, people don't actually see in the movie. But I watched him do his own stunts, which is actually very rare. I mean, stuntmen work, pretty regularly in this town for a particular reason. And I was shocked at the time and surprised, and I was in awe at the time. And then when you go back and you think about all the things that he was privately going through at that time and pulling off that level of stunt work, blown away by it, completely blown away by it.
Kelly, thank you for being on the show. I'd encourage everybody to go check out another act. You're doing a fabulous job. Keep up the great work. When we think about Chadwick Boseman, there's so many superlatives we can all throw out there. But obviously, you've conversed with him and so many people in Hollywood. Can you put into perspective what he means to Hollywood as everyone celebrated him? Particularly with the special on ABC last night, hosted by Robin Roberts, you just got the sense that there was something that he brought to the table that enlightened people about things that they felt they needed to be enlightened about. They might have always known it, but he sort of highlighted it for them. Could you explain that a little bit all in terms of his impact on Hollywood?
Yeah, there's something very special about Chadwick. As much of a movie star as he ultimately became, he was very accessible, which is extremely rare, in this town, especially when you hit that level of superstardom. And I think that people gravitated to him because of that. He felt very familial in a way that, really helped him, I think, transform into some of these iconic American historical figures that he brought to life. And I think that that also is the reason why people loved him so much because he gave depth and perspective to Jackie Robinson. He gave depth and perspective to Thurgood Marshall. He gave depth and perspective to James Brown. And people loved all of these three particular figures. And it just made Chadwick even more endearing because he really kind of expertly, gave them life in a way that we hadn't seen before in Hollywood representation.
Yeah, he'd been on First Take several times, as Molly said, and you always come away talking to him on and off camera because
Yeah.
with this feeling like he has a sympathetic quality, he's charming,
Yeah.
he's smart, he's all of these things. But then and so and the roles he played, the old saying, you don't choose your profession chooses you. So
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson and even a guy like James Brown, certainly Thurgood Marshall, right? The first mainstream black superhero.
Yeah.
Those roles found him somehow. And it's not
He
coincidental. When
did.
I first read the news, I saw something on Twitter like Chadwick Boseman, and I have such a good feeling about him. Like, oh, Chadwick, what's the what? He
Yeah.
was battling cancer for years now. He was getting chemotherapy and doing 15-hour shoots with all this, like doing martial arts on set and stuff. And it
Yeah.
occurred to me since then, he's really is a superhero. I knew he was a great actor. I really liked his work. He's a charming guy. It was a pleasure to talk to him. Rooted for him, looked forward to what he's. But this dude was a superhero. I've never heard of anything like that. Getting chemo, battling cancer for 4 years, doing all these roles in 15 and 18-hour shoots and stuff. It's unbelievable
Yeah.
to me. Like the more that's come out about him, the greater a figure he seems.
No, absolutely, 1,000% I agree with that. I think it just really kind of amplifies who we already thought Chadwick was in the first place. And it just makes you say, wow, this is a person who loved the profession of acting so much and was so passionate about it that he really wanted to make sure that he put in time to do work while he was experiencing something that was very painful that most of us, struggle to get out of bed, even in that instance. And he really powered through. And I think the reason why he probably powered through is because he knew how important the work that he was doing was to a community of people that normally don't get to see themselves represented the way that he was bringing that representation to Hollywood. And I truly think that was probably a driving force for him.
We saw him do James Brown. We saw Thurgood Marshall. We saw 42 with Jackie Robinson and obviously the Black Panther. So, Kelly, we realize the profound impact that he's had, and we realize the profound impact that Black Panther had because it was a predominantly black cast and the money that they made, the success that they had, not just here in America, but abroad as well. I'm wondering, where do they go from here? And I ask that question because I know that cast, that movie, the profound impact that it had meant the world to him. When I spoke to him personally, he articulated that point of view. Where do they all go from here without him, in your estimation?
I mean, I don't know how they even will begin to try and pick up the pieces. The truth is that if we weren't experiencing a global health pandemic right now, they would have been shooting Black Panther in Atlanta this summer. They were supposed to start, firing up the cameras the top of next year in January to start shooting Panther. I don't know what happens next, but I do know that the representation is universally important to everyone who's a member of that cast, especially Chadwick. And I don't think that Chadwick would want this momentum to end. Black Panther grossed in excess of $1.3 billion. It was the first film with a predominantly black cast, with black writers and a black director to travel globally and do as well as it has done. It is one of the top grossing movies of all time. There is no way that this guy wants that ride to end. And I think that they're going to find an appropriate way to pay homage to Chadwick while continuing the story and the legacy of the Black Panther. Because the filmmakers, they saw what happened. They understood that a community was seeing themselves in a way that they have never seen themselves before. And that bigger than that, a universal story is a universal story. It doesn't matter what the protagonists look like. And I think that that was really kind of the big life lesson that Black Panther showed Hollywood and ultimately showed the world. And I think that we're going to keep going on.